Hey everybody, welcome to the Thoughtful Theologian Podcast. We appreciate you listening with us, and we hope to bring you a good show. Ashton, how's your week been?
I would describe this week as a roller coaster. It's had its ups and downs.
Roller coaster.
But yeah, it's going up, it's going down, but it's kind of even out now. So
That's good. That's good.
I'm
At
good.
least now it's getting. Is it going up the hill? Has it come down the hill?
It's more just kind of like it's like
Going
just
through a
steady.
corkscrew?
Yeah, it's just steady. It's steadied out. It's that time where you can breathe. Maybe the picture gets taken, and you can prepare yourself for the next up or down.
That's good. That's good. All right. Well, so you've got school going on. We just got done with our fall festivals and all that good stuff. Now we're kind of getting ready for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, December is fun for a lot of people. It's, I'm just going to say this, and this may make me, I don't know, un-American or barely a Christian, but I'm not a big Christmas guy. I'm not. And it's not just the stuff that comes with Christmas and ministry. I've never been a big Christmas guy. Just haven't. But anyway, maybe I'm a Grinch, maybe not. But yeah.
I think you're just a Grinch.
Well, maybe. Well, probably. That's fine. The Grinch is still Christmas. I always, had compassion for him.
You always sympathize with that character.
I did. I always have. In fact, the actual movie that they did was great.
I love Christmas. I don't like maybe. I do feel a little bit of stigma towards Christmas just because I feel like everyone gets more spiritual during Christmas.
Sure,
it's like because everyone knows that that's the month that God blessed himself.
Well, that's his day. He gets one a year.
Yeah.
Well, and he does get Sunday at every beginning of the week,
Yeah.
but the rest of those days,
It's kind of like the other 11 months aren't God's, but December is that month is God's. That's
God's.
the month we tithe to God.
That's right. Anyway, we digress. So it's time for best and worst of the week, and we want to start off first before we get into anything else. This is my worst of the week.
I believe it's a lot of people's worst of the week.
Well, yeah, it is bad. It's something that we mourn as brothers and sisters of the gospel. Church out in Texas Sunday was massacred by a gunman, and we want to keep our prayers and thoughts with the victims' families and the ones that are left behind from this. We want to pray for that church and just pray for that they would continue on and not just splinter, because this is definitely something that could have a huge effect on that body of Christ. So when that body grieves, we grieve with it, because we're all the body of Christ. It may be all the way across the country, but we are there with them in grieving. So.
Well, also just so you guys know, like the age range of victims was all the way from 72 years old all the way down to 5 years old.
5 years old. Could you imagine the evil it takes to gun down a 5-year-old child? It's just unspeakable evil, and it speaks to our need for the gospel. See, folks, this is what happens when the gospel is not part of someone's life. This is what can take place when evil has its way, and that's just what we have to keep in mind. This is what we are capable of apart from Christ, and if it weren't for the gospel, this would be a more normal thing.
Yeah.
So thank God for his gospel and
how
his mercy.
fallen the world is.
Absolutely.
And how fallen man is.
Right, and we thank God for his mercy and his grace, because it would be much worse. But because of the gospel, tragedies like this are not just tragedies. They actually, God can get glory from this. And thank God that it's not just a senseless tragedy, because that's what it is, but we can also see positive in that God will comfort his sheep. Yep. He will. So that was my worst of the week. We grieve with those brothers and sisters, praying for them. We also pray for each listener of this podcast. We hope God speaks to you through this podcast, and we thank you for listening. My best of the week: leftover candy in my office. Okay, it's also probably the worst because it's going to eventually kill me.
Well, it's the best right now.
It is.
It'll be your worst of the week a couple years from now.
Yeah. In hindsight, it'll be the worst when I'm wheeling around in a wheelchair because I don't have feet. Like, this will be the worst. But right now, it's the best, and yeah. Leftover candy.
My best of the week is I took my kids to go see Thor 3.
Okay.
I accidentally said it was Thor 2 when I told the kids, but no, it was Thor 3. But
this isn't some dollar theater replay.
I know. Who was going to see Thor 3? I had a fun time. I think the kids had a fun time. It was a pretty good movie.
Good. Well, So that's our best and worst of the weeks. Obviously, your worst of the week was the same as mine.
Yeah.
I think that's probably everybody's worst. It doesn't get much worse than that. So, again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and their families. I want to get straight into some deep thought, okay?
All right.
We've got a couple of doozies today. Some that I have wondered about for a long time. Want to get your take on. Want to get kind of spill my guts on the page on this one.
All right.
On these two, actually. When you're in the kind of work that Ashton and I are in, we get told a lot of different things that we kind of scratch our heads about. A lot of different things that we are asked to do that we are told differently to do in maybe theology school. And one of these things, and I want to get your opinion on this, and I want to give my opinion on this, but I can't tell you how many times I've been told by a number of churches, a number of church leaders. I'm not necessarily picking on any one church. This is a common thing, unfortunately, in my opinion, but bringing down the gospel to the student's level / dumbing down the gospel, where's the line? Where do you go from bringing it down to their level so they can understand it to you've crossed over to dumbing down the gospel? Maybe you water it down and it's not quite what it says. Where's the line? Because in my opinion, it's a very thin line that we need to stay away from.
Well, I like to go back to Charles Spurgeon because Charles Spurgeon was that kind of preacher where he made even the hardest of concepts very easy to digest for the masses. So there is that fine line of where do you start dumbing it down to a point where it's not even the gospel anymore?
Right.
And I think that's really hard to find sometimes because you want to make it easy, you want to make it accessible to everyone that's there and get it on their level. But at the same time, you don't want to hinder the growth of others, or worst case, you misrepresent the entirety of the gospel.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of us like to shift to this area of let's only talk about the loving aspects of God. Let's only talk about the lovey-dovey good parts of God, which is nothing wrong with, but you have to understand God is complex, and he also has he also hates things. He also has wrath. He also punishes. He's also a judge. So you can't water that down to so much.
That's right.
You can't water it down and go, oh well, God's upset with you. Yeah. God will also punish you. So I think there's that there. I think it's case by case, absolutely. But there is that line of like you can't dumb, but so many things down. Like you can't dumb down the fact that there's only one way to heaven. It's right. Jesus. Like you can't really dumb that down. I mean, you can dumb down certain theological issues like atonement, things like that, predestination of free will, the argument. You can dumb it down to a point, but when it comes to like the basics, you can only go so far.
Right. Well, and here's my take on it, and I just want to say this first off: the idea that anyone has that kids or students. And I want to set it. I want to set the stage. We're primarily talking about middle schoolers and high schoolers here. Okay, we all know we have to give a childlike gospel to children. That's understood. But in this particular case, we're talking about grades like 5 or 6 through 12, and here's the thing: is any person that thinks a student in middle school or high school cannot understand in depth the gospel is dead wrong. Okay? Because these kids are doing college math and Englishes in high school. They're smart. And you're telling me they can't sit for 20 minutes and actually study and understand the gospel? I think that's a huge misstep, and I think honestly, I don't think we expect enough out of our youth.
No, absolutely.
As far as theology goes.
Absolutely.
We get a free pass.
We expect so little out of our middle school and high school groups, to the point where we get almost like protective around them, and we kind of put these walls up, and we set the bar so low. We set the bar so low that if they even come near it, we're impressed.
Right.
Like we basically tell the middle school and high schoolers, well, as long as you know who Goliath was and who Jesus was,
who was Goliath?
He was in the Bible, I know.
He was somewhere.
I think it was in the New Testament, but But we set the bar so low that they even come near it. We're like, oh yeah, you did
we're
good.
elated.
You did good.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
You know the Gospels. That's all you need to know.
Right.
Or you know roughly what Jesus did in his life. That's all you need to know. Instead of trying to push them to learn more and let them be better than they ever could be.
Sure. And here's the whole thing, because there's two parts to this. There's what happens when you teach above the heads of a student. We all know that if I were to go in there and teach my middle school and high schoolers like we were in a theology school in third or fourth year, and I just walk in there and say, all right, we're going to learn proper hermeneutics, they're going to be like, herma what? But if I walk in and say, we're going to talk about how to interpret the Bible correctly, it's the same thing, but we're using terms that they understand. I think we get scared that we're going to leave our kids behind, and really we fall back too far, and we wind up, they just don't learn anything. But I understand, okay, if you're a parent, if you're just anyone listening that says, but you can't teach deep theology to a middle school or high schooler, I would say I agree in part. Okay, I agree that we are not in a theology school as far as on a collegiate level. Now, we need to get something straight, though, people. We are all students of the gospel, and we are all students of theology. Case in point, without theology, you wouldn't know that Jesus is God, so you would not have faith in Jesus as a Christian. You have to know theology, some theology, to at least be a Christian.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
And so I think we take the gospel's power away when we say, well, they don't need to worry about theology. That's your job, and that's the head pastor's job. And it's like, no, it's our job as Christians to know theology. So I understand if I teach above their heads, I'll totally lose everybody. And I might as well be speaking Chinese, right? But here's the thing. I never want to, dumb down. I hate using that term, dumb down the gospel, because then I set up an idol that the gospel isn't even. You know what I mean? Like I turn the gospel into something that it's not. That Jesus loves me, and that's it.
Jesus loves me. This I know.
That's
the Bible tells me so.
And I set up this version of I've set up this vision of Jesus that, okay, he loves me, and because he loves me, I'm okay. There's no personal holiness there. There's no holding yourself accountable to the teachings of Jesus. There's no fruit involved. So at the end of the day, I give my students a free pass because they know about Jesus. They know that Jesus is loving, but they forget that God is judge, and they forget that everything that goes along with the atonement for their sin. And those things can be taught on quote unquote their level. But I think we're so afraid to teach them there that we just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
And I think we need to start expecting more of our students. I think if you're not teaching good theology, and look, I'm not saying that on Wednesday nights when there's lost people there, you don't just preach the gospel. You know what I mean? Always preach the gospel. But have a meeting. In fact, you do this. You have Diving Deeper, I believe it's called.
Yes.
Where you meet with primarily what are assumed to be Christians.
Yes.
You're not trying to save these kids, but you are trying to enrich the walk that they already have, and so you go a little deeper. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we just meet on Sunday nights. We usually go through a Bible study or a book, and we just talk over issues that they want to talk about primarily.
Oh, so they actually get to pick the topics. What a novel idea. You mean the students actually get to talk about stuff that they might be struggling with?
Yes.
That's a good idea. I'm going to have to try that.
It's better in theory because you have to actually have them speak up and
They have to be willing to speak.
We have to be not scared to say something. But it's worked occasionally.
Right. Well, just quick, my two things. I think there's some big things that hinder kids from getting getting a deep understanding of what they actually believe. One, I believe, is the church. I think the church plays a huge role in fostering the idea that I'll learn this stuff one day. When I get older, when I can understand this stuff better, I'll learn it one day. And I think that's one big hindrance to the students because look, I've heard it before. The students are the future of the church. Wrong. Can I just say that? They are the church. Mm-hmm. They're just a younger part of the church. And to say that they are a future part of the church is shortchanging them. I'm sorry, I'm wound up today. I'm just going. But here's the deal. I think the church in a large part, hinders the teaching of theology because they're afraid that their kids can't take it. Thus, they don't learn it. And I think we are shortchanging our students in the quality of their walk that they could have by being afraid that they can't handle something.
Absolutely.
And it starts at the top. It starts with, for me, it starts with me. Mm-hmm. It starts with my youth committee. It starts with my parents. Mm-hmm. Without all of that, without all of those people saying, you know what, you're exactly right, we need to teach the gospel. And listen here, folks, if you think that bringing your kid to me to teach them the gospel is enough for them, you're wrong. The gospel needs to be taught at home.
Well, I think the biggest indicator when a parent or whoever says that, oh, well, my kids don't understand, or it goes over my kids' heads. For me, that's a little bit of an indicator of, okay, do you work with them on these subjects at home?
Where are they hearing their gospel from?
If they're only hearing the Bible and gospel and teaching from myself or the senior pastor and only on Wednesdays and Sundays, you're not doing your job as a parent.
You've got to foster the gospel in your home.
My parents are not perfect, but growing up, we had a family devotion every single night, and we went over a different Bible lesson every single night. And that was probably, looking back, one of the most beneficial things to my upbringing. Now, it wasn't perfect, like they're not scholars, but It gave me the foundations that I needed to build off of.
Well, and here's the deal. We expect our kids to understand exactly, like students expect, and I can't say we because I don't have a kid, but in my experience as a youth pastor in a ton of different churches, we expect our students to understand exactly what's being taught. But listen, folks, they only get taught that, once, if they're lucky, twice a week? That's not enough.
Yeah.
The gospel is something that they need to be familiar with away from church, and the church should be the cherry on top. You know, when they come to church and they hear me talk about that should be the cherry on top for what they've heard all week from their parents. And I'm going to call out parents for a second. I'm going to call out leaders in the church everywhere. This is for every church in the sound of my voice. The gospel-centered teaching, theology, starts at home and ends at home. Mm-hmm. Don't expect a pastor or a youth pastor or youth minister to be the only one to teach your kid and they understand it. Because if they don't see mom and dad, if they don't see grandma and grandpa, if they don't see brother and sister believing this and teaching this, it's not going to stick. How can we expect it to? They go to school 5 days out of the week. They learn the gospel 1 day out of the week. Yeah, I'll just say that.
Well, I mean, look at Hebrews 5:14. Those who have been, I believe, it's constant training.
Yeah,
constant training of the word. Like they have to be in constant reading and studying of the word. It's not a one type of thing. It's the same scenario of, can you survive off of 2 meals a week only on Sunday and Wednesday?
No, I can. God knows I can't.
Like, and if you could, you'd be what? Very unhealthy.
Yep.
You don't feed your dog only on Wednesdays and Sundays. You feed him all through the week. Just like your spiritual.
And if you do, I will come find you.
Just like your spiritual life should be fed constantly.
That's right. And we should, as Christians, preach the gospel to ourselves on a daily basis. People, if we don't trust that our kids can learn theology, they never will. Mm-hmm. They never will. They just never will. That's pretty much all I got on that one. I believe as a youth minister that I have the ability to take the full gospel and bring it down, not dumb it down, but bring it down to their level using terms they understand without adding water to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of churches want you to add water. If you add anything to the gospel, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to mince words here. If you add anything to the gospel, you know what it becomes? Not the gospel. Mm-hmm. If you water it down at all, you know what you're preaching? A feel-good, go have a nice day sermon that has nothing to do with the gospel. The kids should hear the same gospel that the adults hear on their level. And I think that's where we need to stay, and we need to be mindful that we do not want to water this gospel down, because we have smart kids.
Yeah.
And they will do exactly what they're expected to do. And if they're not expected to know good theology, guess what? They're not going to do it. So, but, Ashton and I can't do it on our own. Any other youth pastor can't do it on their own. The gospel has to be taught at home. And God bless you if you have a dad and mom that is, if you're youth today and you have a dad and mom that's a Christian, that's great. So some of you don't have that out there. I understand that, but someone needs to be teaching the gospel more than just the church and its leadership. It needs to be taught outside of the church as well, and that's my 2 cents on that. What do you think?
No, I totally agree.
Awesome. I'm glad to get that off my chest.
When you pull in someone here with a counter argument.
Yeah, I wonder who would have a counter argument like that. That would be tough to have a counter argument about that. But anyway, all right, we're gonna move to a really fun segment of mine. Like it's to me, it's fun. To me, it's hilarious. This is what we call. Some people call it funny church signs. I call it bad church signs because most of these are either really just wrong theologically or they're really, really corny. And I think honestly, some of these.
How does this get people to come to the church? That's my question.
Well, honestly, I read some of these and I'm thinking we should have to give out licenses for people to have signs, and once you have enough points on your license, it's revoked and they come rip your sign up. Like that's what I think.
I'm like, shouldn't the sign purpose be to either spread information about your church, like, hey, we're doing this event, or hey, here's a Bible verse to lift up your day. Like I'm fine with maybe an occasional, funny tagline. But 99.999% of the time I see them, they're just cringy.
Yeah, I cringe so hard, and
oh my God, I could see like a really old pastor, even like a young pastor sitting in their office going like, he, that was hilarious. He.
They're gonna drive right to our church because of that.
I bet so many people saw that and laughed.
That's right.
I'm a comedian.
All right, so I picked about 10 signs, and we're just gonna blow through these, and I hope you enjoy them. Being it so close to Christmas, I know we've got to get through November, but it is close.
It's close.
Because, St. Nick, he's getting ready, right? So this first sign, and this, I'm just going to read what it says. I'm also making a list and checking it twice. God.
So God's Santa.
Yeah, apparently we have come up with a hybrid God, Jesus, Santa character.
So wait, why does God have to check the list twice?
Yeah, did he make a mistake?
Miss something?
He must have overlooked something the first time.
Doesn't that imply that God could make a mistake?
Absolutely, and so that is that's a doozy to start out with. Just remember, people, apparently he's making a Christmas list, and you better be on it. I don't know if
I understand.
Are you going to heaven on this? What is this list?
Okay, maybe like the Book of Life they were talking about. I could see them like.
Isn't that book already done?
Yeah, but like,
does he know?
But like the idea, the thing that gets me is I'm checking it twice. It's like, no, you're not.
I'm checking it for mistakes.
No, you're not.
God's checking it for mistakes. There you go. Okay, I love this one, and when people hear me say this, they're gonna gasp a little bit. But I'm just gonna say it. If you don't love God, go to hell. If you don't love God, go to hell. That's from our friends at Unity Christian Church. We appreciate that one. That was a nice laugh. I understand the idea behind it, but
it's a little
edgy.
It's a little
edgy.
It's a little. I don't think that's gonna get butts in seats anytime soon.
I'm sure people were lining up at the door for that one.
But I got a good chuckle.
If you don't love God, go to hell. Wow, I love it. All right. Okay, now this seems like a fun church. I'm thinking about checking this church out. This seems like a fun church to visit.
Okay. This
is what the sign says, and this is from Fellowship Church. The one Fellowship Church. 10 billion. This is from Fellowship Church. Who knows where they are? This is what their sign says. No clothing this Wednesday. It's a fun church.
I'm on board. Yeah, I'm on board already. You don't have to.
That could be good and bad. Like, I feel like you could go from one side of the room. Oh yeah, this is awesome. And then you make the one wrong turn at the corner of your eye. Bam. This is not.
It depends
good.
on what age group is this.
I think it's the whole church. We could have problems here.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
It can be problematic here.
It could be interesting when you get up and shake people's hands. Like,
And look, this is where assigned seating in church is a must for me. Because I'm not sitting in someone else's chair after the next Sunday. I'm not touching anyone's chair.
If one person has genital herpes, everyone's going down.
That's it.
They're going down. Everyone's going down.
So I'm saying, like, I want my own chair. All right, that's assigned seating all the way the next Sunday. But that's what it says. No clothing this Wednesday. Thank you, Fellowship Church, for that one. This one, this one's sad and funny, and we're about to tear this one apart. Because it deserves it. This is from Mount Zion Fellowship, the one.
Yeah, the one Mount Zion Fellowship.
God's love is unconditional. This is great. We're starting off at a good,
Okay.
on a
God's
good
love
pace
is
here.
unconditional.
As long as you are obeying Jesus.
Okay, so they backpedal real quick.
Quick. It went from great
Real
theology to we just, the wings broke off and we're in a tailspin.
That's like saying Jesus is the only way to heaven, except works.
And that's exactly what they do, is they open the door here to, hey, God's love is unconditional as long as you earn it. That's pretty much what this sign says here. Because who obeys Jesus 100% of the time?
Not me.
Exactly. Right. Who obeys God 100% of the time? Jesus. That's it. That's it, people. And so this sign literally says God's love is unconditional as long as you earn it. As long as you're obeying Jesus. I think if you rest in the work of Jesus, God's love is unconditional.
The sign itself, I wonder what they were thinking. I wonder if that'd be a funny, like, oh, haha, gotcha.
My question is, what deacon board let this go on? Like, what deacon board said, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe they believe it. That's the scary thing, is I hope it's wrong and not actually what they believe. Like, I hope they misstepped here, and it's not like, yeah, we totally stand behind our sign.
I hope this is just like an intern or something.
Maybe it came from Children's Church. All right. All right, this one's another edgy one. Okay. And this is from a Baptist church. And I read this and I said, I like it. And this is what it says. Read the Bible. It'll scare the hell out of you.
So hell's inside of me.
Apparently, hell is inside of me.
Man, can I get it out?
Yeah, read the Bible. It'll scare it out of you. First of all, apparently we're supposed to be scared of the Bible. Okay, the Bible's supposed to scare us,
not God,
and
Jesus.
Right. And two, apparently hell is not a place where God's wrath will be poured out. Hell is inside of us, which is a scary thought as well.
I've met some people that I feel like hell's inside of them.
Yeah, I know exactly that. But that one's some shaky theology too. But I like it because it's edgy. Read the Bible; it'll scare the hell out of you. All right. Ooh, this one's good. This one's for people that struggle with maybe some lust or some things like that. All right. Forbidden fruits create many jams. Okay, that's a life lesson there for you. Forbidden fruits create many jams.
I love the double meaning ones.
Like double entendres, that they're called. Yeah,
they're great.
Forbidden fruits create many jams. We're gonna move on.
I approve that one. I approve that one.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Okay, before I talk about this one, I just want to say we just need to get off of the social media kick, trying to sound cool. The worst thing Christians could ever do is try to be cool. Can I just say that? Like, the worst thing Christians can do is say, we just want to be relevant and cool to the people outside. Now, we should be relevant. We should try to invite people. Our atmosphere as a worship, as a church, should be inviting and not like they've stepped onto an alien planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not going to go back in time.
Exactly.
Years.
Like, we should definitely foster comfort in a church without watering the gospel down. But here's the deal, people. Let's not sound stupid. Let's not use these terms that the kids are using and just look like losers.
Get lit for Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is what this sign says, and we should stop using things like this. This is perfect. These are the people that should lose their sign. Okay, and this one's bricked in, so that would be tough. But just run it over the tractor. God answers knee mail. Knee mail. I'm just going to let that one simmer. God answers knee mail. Now, you know, this always gets me because growing up, I was like, so I have to get on my knees for God to hear my prayers? He can't hear me in the full upright position? Can he hear me sitting down?
This is just a critique on the modern church. Stop using the phrase, get on your knees.
Just stop. It could go so many different ways. We're going to leave it right there.
At this point, we need to stop using that terminology. It is not with the times anymore, and it has come up with a new meaning.
That's right.
That's all I want to say on that.
Just stop trying to be cool because you're just going in the wrong direction. All right.
That one broke me a little bit.
It will. Okay, this one I like because this is trust. This is talking about trusting in God, but yet not being stupid, is what it says. Trust in God, but lock your car door. I like it.
Okay, I can understand it.
I mean, it's saying, hey, don't be stupid just because God's going to take care of you. Like, have some stewardship. Yeah. Lock your door at night. Protect your family. I like it.
I was just kind of basic, though. But, I mean,
but hey,
it's good.
I like it. Oh, what happens in Vegas is forgiven here.
No other church, that one.
Just this one. So if you ever go to Vegas, you mess up, maybe you do something you shouldn't, you have to go to this church. Now, unfortunately for us, it doesn't have their address here.
Okay, because I think that would only work if you were near Vegas.
Right. And maybe they are out just outside Vegas. Who knows? But if you ever go to Vegas and you feel like you've stumbled, find this church because that's where it's forgiven.
They have the answer.
Okay. And I think we're kind of closing in on... Oh, this one's cool. To a dyslexic atheist, there is a dog. I'll let you get that one by Frey. To a dyslexic atheist.
I think you're dyslexic here.
I think I am. There is a dog. I'm just going to move on from that one.
I like that one. That's a clever one.
I had to put this one in. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Jesus. Jesus who? Exactly. I'm going to do that again.
Checkmate, atheist.
Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Jesus. Jesus who? Exactly. You don't know him. You don't know him. You don't know him. This one's from First Reformed Church. And this one's actually pretty cool. Keep using my name in vain, and I'll make rush hour longer. God. Way to go. Oh, this one wrecked me. Okay, I was wrecked by this one. It's going to wreck a lot of you. This one cuts to the chase. It doesn't mince words. And it doesn't have too much value on people. Because this is what it says. Tired of being a loser?
Yes.
Turn to God. You're a loser.
That is straight to the point.
Straight to the point, right?
I'm all about
Tired of being a loser? As Matthew Wheeler would say, we all suck. Right? It's great theology, brother. Oh, this was my favorite because I feel like this kind of just encapsulates all of what church is about here in the South. This is what it says. Jesus is coming. Look busy. Act like you're doing something because Jesus is going to return one day. Right? That's why I got a job in the ministry. Okay, this is the last one, I believe. Yes, it is. And this is my favorite because this is a homemade sign. And it's cardboard, and it's sitting out in front of a church. If it rains, it's ruined. But it looks like a youth group and some youth workers probably got together and made this. But it has, it looks like a Facebook profile account. And it says, new friend requests at the top. And it's got a little picture of what they think Jesus looks like. That's all I'll say. And
white Jesus.
That's right. And it's with the long hair and everything. And it says this, Jesus wants to be your friend, and it has a little accept and a little deny. And then right under there is what we think Satan looks like, really evil with the horns. It says Satan wants to destroy you, accept or deny. Again.
I'm going to deny.
Again. Stop using social media to be cool. It's not. It's just not cool anymore. We see right through it, okay? Those are your bad church signs of the week. Some good ones. Some of them were actually not bad.
No.
They're actually pretty good, but most of them were. So we're going to move on to our next segment, and this is a biggie. This is something I've struggled with most of my life, just because I don't know. Most people don't know this about me. I'll save this for when we get into the segment. But I've struggled with a lot of these categories in my life, and I'll explain why once we get into this segment. But we're going to talk about what's appropriate in the church as far as music, clothing, and just culture, things like that. When are we trying to entertain, and when are we trying to be legalistic? Where's the line? I like talking about where's the line, because that's something that we can kind of give our opinions on, and no one can say anything because this is our podcast. But anyway, what do you think? Let's just talk about like music and clothing. Why do you think for some churches it's such a struggle to have a praise band? Why do you think it's such a struggle for if somebody walks in with jeans, they're not a Christian? Why do you and some churches don't struggle with this at all, but a lot of older churches around here, in the South struggle with this. And what's your opinion on it? What have you dealt with in your life? And just give me some thoughts on it.
I've seen a problem in the church when it comes to what kids, like the apparel kids can wear, and what they can't wear. And I've been asked when and where kids can't wear hats or hoodies or jeans or shorts in church. And my question to them is always, okay, you want to tell a kid he can't wear a hat to youth group or even Sunday morning service. Is that hat or jeans or shoes or sandals going to stop them from hearing the gospel?
Yeah.
No. Is it going to hinder someone else? If it does, sucks for them. And the only thing I could say that would not be appropriate when it comes to articles of clothing, if either one, they were naked, two,
they had no articles of clothing.
Yeah, no articles of clothing. Two, they were maybe in like something that was so revealing it was distracting.
Sure.
Like if I wore anything that showed skin,
right,
at all, people would be distracted by that. If I wore a bikini, people would be distracted by that.
Yes, they would.
Yes.
Very much
Not
so.
for the.
I know I would.
Not for the right reasons.
I would be very distracted.
But if like someone wore a shirt that basically said, even if someone came in with a shirt that said God is dead, should we not minister to them because they have that shirt on?
I would sit right beside that guy or girl.
I would talk to them more than people
Absolutely.
in the church.
I would have a good time with them.
Like, when are you gonna stop focusing on other people and focus on God? Because when people come to me like that, or I hear complaints about that, it always just the first thought that pops in my head is, okay, so you weren't focusing on the message or the worship, you're focusing on them.
Yeah.
You're taking your eyes off Christ, taking your eyes off worshiping God, and focusing it on the person next to you. Why don't we get out of that little bubble and actually focus on why we're there? To worship God, not to judge other people or to critique what they're doing.
Sure.
I think that's the main problem. I mean, if it was up to me, I would let anyone wear anything during Sunday morning. I would not care. There would be no, whether you're a deacon or a pastor, I would not care.
Well, and here's the thing.
Now, but I understand bringing your best to God.
Absolutely.
I will want to wear my best on Sunday mornings. But if I wake up on Sunday morning and I am rushing for time and I don't have time to get on my suit or get on my best shirt and I just want to throw on a t-shirt and jeans, I would love to have that ability.
Yeah. And let's park here on the clothing aspect of it, and we'll move on to the music, because there's kind of we can go as deep here as we want. We could have a 3-hour podcast on this. So let's just talk about the clothes right here, and then we'll move on to the music. Ashton knows me. He grew up in the same church as me, and we watched each other grow up. That sounded kind of weird. But we grew up in the same church, and I always wore a hat or a beanie, not a toboggan, a beanie. A toboggan is a sled. You don't wear sled on your head. Okay, let's get that right. I always wore a hat. Well, that was okay until I started playing lead guitar on the stage for quote-unquote big church.
Big church.
Yeah, right. Well, apparently big church is so much holier than youth group, people started having a problem with it. And so I remember people going up to the then worship leader at the time, and they would constantly complain. He's covering his head. It's disrespectful. It's unbiblical. I got that too. So you know what I did? I went to 1 Corinthians and I read, I believe it's chapter 11 when it deals with what men and women should wear in worship. Now here's the idea, people. This was written many, many years ago to a congregation that didn't have cars, didn't have like pants, things like that. But people were using it to say that I was covering my head and that it was unbiblical. This is what the verse says. Do not cover your head when you are prophesying or leading in worship. Understand, these people, actually it said leading in prayer, not worship. These people, this was written to a people in Paul's day, okay? And they would stop it right there and they'd be like, see, he's wearing a hat. He's up there leading worship, even though it said prayer. He's up there, we weren't prophesying. I wasn't prophesying, but they were like, see, it's unbiblical. And they chose to cut off the bottom part that said that women shouldn't wear pants, that they should have both ears pierced. They had to have their ears pierced, right? And that they actually couldn't speak in church, that the men could only speak in church, and then the men were supposed to go home and teach the women. They forgot about that part. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think church should look like that at all today, okay? Let's not mince words here. I think women should be a welcome part in the church. I think they should have leadership roles in the church as far as I'll be honest, I don't think women should be head pastors of churches. You can fight me on that, but that's my biblical understanding of a pastor. I don't mind them being youth ministers. We have fellow youth ministers that are women that Ashton and I are good friends with.
Yeah.
I encourage it. It's a great thing. God can work through these women, and it's great. So they were literally twisting one portion of the Bible that wasn't even talking about what we're talking about today, and they were using it against me. So what most people don't know, there's a good reason I wear a hat. I have what's called scalp psoriasis. Sometimes it's really bad, sometimes it's not. I get sores on my head, it gets flaky, it looks terrible.
That's why you have a hat.
I had one. God bless her heart. She was.
Mean it's not because you hate God?
No, right? Yeah, no.
Because
you
worship Satan.
I was worshiping Satan. That's why I had the beanie on. But
I always assumed.
I had one sweet lady come up to me. She's like, "I'm not trying to judge you." She's like, "I just really want to know why you wear a hat all the time." I said, "Well, since you're the only one who's ever asked, I'm going to tell you." And I told her the story of my scalp psoriasis. She said, "Huh? Well, that makes sense. You're not trying to be disrespectful." And I wanted to cry and hug that woman. Would have married her, but she already had a husband. But I just think we get caught up in dress, and there are some churches, ladies and gentlemen, who is able to preach the gospel without fear, who is equipped to preach the gospel, who would not be allowed to preach the gospel in certain churches without a suit and a tie. Where's that in the Bible? You tell me. Show me where that's in the Bible. I understand, just like you said, Ashton, we should always bring our best. But we should not have an objection to a person of God that is preaching the gospel if he's wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I just don't see why that should be an objection. The thing is I will never tell somebody that they shouldn't wear a suit to church. Okay? I'll never tell them that. They should. They should wear whatever they want to church as long as it's like you said, not revealing or distracting. As much as they shouldn't be upset if I wear jeans and a t-shirt to church. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Don't take things that are preferences and make them commands of God, because they're not. God never commands anyone to wear a suit and a tie to be in the pulpit.
It's fine to have preferences.
Absolutely.
I have
that's
preferences.
Okay.
We all have our own preferences. The line is enforcing your preferences on other people because you don't like it, or making this false statement that it is somehow God's design for the church to all wear suit and ties or dresses.
Yeah.
Like that's not that God never said that was his design.
Nope.
So
in fact, a healthy church has tons of different colors, tons of different backgrounds. That's right, I said it, colors.
No.
Not just white Americans. A healthy church has...
But Jesus was white.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a healthy church has people that feel comfortable worshiping a ball cap and jeans and a t-shirt, and people that are comfortable worshiping in a three-piece suit. When we look at a church, we should see every walk of life, okay? Not just people who are trying to fit into a church. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think we see that a lot in churches in the South for sure. But and praise God, a lot of the newer pastors now are starting to try to break that mold, and I'm happy for it. But is it wrong to wear jeans and a t-shirt to church? Absolutely not. Is it wrong to wear jeans and a t-shirt in the pulpit? Absolutely not. Is it wrong to wear dress slacks and a dress shirt to church? Absolutely not. They're all preferences. Yeah. And as churches, we have to get past these preferences, because while we're dying on these hills that aren't worth dying on, there's issues in the church that we're ignoring that are really important. And I think it's important that we kind of open up. And by the way, our students see how the leaders in the church reacts to this kind of stuff. And that's important. All right? And we don't want them to think that you have to dress up a certain way to earn God's love, because you don't. You do not. So would I get up in jeans and a t-shirt on a Sunday morning in front of the adults and preach the gospel? I wish I could, but I wouldn't. Right? I would not, because I wouldn't want to offend anybody. But at the end of the day, should I be able to and the gospel be preached? Absolutely. And now I will say, and I don't want to take too much more time on this, but this is a hot button issue for me. I preached during last week's now 8 days ago, last week's youth service, and I on purpose wore jeans. On purpose.
You heathen.
Because I was told at one time that every time I got in the pulpit, I should wear dress slacks, which I then said, that's okay, that's fine, I'll be willing to do that, but just I want you to know that's not a biblical request. I just want people to know that's not biblical, and that's okay, all right? As long as you're not telling me it's in the Bible, that's fine. And here's the deal. I got up there and I said, some of you have already tuned me out because of the material that is wrapped around my legs right now, because it was denim. And we've, and as a church, and I'm not talking about just my church, but as a church in general, we've got to get past that. If we're gonna reach people for Jesus, it's got to be the gospel and nothing else.
Yeah,
that it's just case in point. Got to be the gospel and nothing else. All right, we got time for the second part of this juicy tidbit of a segment. We are both involved heavily in music. Have been most of our lives. I play guitar. I've been playing guitar for, about 12 years now. Played drums for a while. I try to sing. Whatever comes out, comes out. Have a really good youth praise band here, just because I have a lot of talent here at Rosa Sharon. And one thing that I've seen in a lot of the churches that I've been in is there's such a dramatic swing in the music. There's never, oh, we do both. There's never, oh, we have a mix. It's either, oh, no, it's just hymns, or no, we do all band music.
It's either we have an organ or we have a fog machine.
That's
There's
it.
no middle ground.
And listen here, people. I'm not. There's nothing against hymns. Okay, nothing against them. There's also nothing against singing an elevation worship song, as long as the theology's good. There's nothing wrong with singing Jesus in My Place. There's nothing wrong with singing. By the way, would you like to tell our audience what the term hymn is? Because it doesn't mean a really old worship song.
Let us define the term hymn real quick. Now, if you do a Google search and you just type in hymn definition, so let's just do that.
It's gonna blow your mind.
Hymn definition. This is the English definition of a hymn: a religious song or poem, typically of praise to God or a god. Okay, and that's roughly what the biblical term is too. So when Paul was saying sing songs, hymns, that kind of stuff, hymns, he did not mean the hymn that was written in 1853 or 1651. Okay, hymns is not a genre. It's not a time period of music. It's not the music that you can always find in a hymnal. Those are not just hymns. Any song that praises God is technically a hymn.
That's right.
So the idea of modern worship or contemporary worship is not. It's just newer hymns.
That's right.
And
newer
that is
songs.
And that is a false statement to say, well, the Bible says we're supposed to sing hymns, so let's get out our hymnals. No. That is wrong, and you are basing it. And I've dealt with this for a while now, and it really, really makes me upset. I'm gonna go a little chanty here, but to say that it is any more religious or holy to sing something that's out of a hymnal from 200 years ago, or something that's out of a printed sheet from a month ago, it is preposterous.
It is,
and it's a little bit moronic to say that is more holy,
and
more religious.
Steeped in tradition.
I understand people not liking contemporary worship because they think that, it's not as deep as the old theology. Now, older hymns have great theology.
They sure do. Some of them have bad theology.
They also have terrible theology.
Some of them do, absolutely.
They also have terrible. They're
just like some of the worship songs of today.
There's this one hymn that I've sang before, and I've honestly wondered where it came from. It's a song called One by One, and it's the only thing in the song is, well, one by one we go, one by one it's basically about going out and telling people about Jesus, but nowhere is God or Jesus mentioned in the entire song. Now, if a hymn does not include God or Jesus,
is it a hymn?
Is it a hymn? Is it a worship song? Okay,
yeah.
So the idea that a church is a better church or a more holy church because it only sings hymns from a certain time period of like 200 years or 100 years is any more holy than a church that only sings songs from a modern day era is moronic. Now, I prefer to have a blended service, preferably.
Right.
But I understand the older traditional churches and the new, more hipster churches. I understand it, but I think there's great hymns that have a great history, like the ones that Martin Luther wrote or Calvin wrote, the ones that were even written in the past couple hundred years. But then the more modern ones are amazing too. Why can't we have both? Why can't we pull from any time period instead of just a select couple of years?
And I'm like you. I got a foot in both camps here, because here's the deal, people. If you think your church is more holy, just like you were talking about, Ashton, just because you sing hymns, you're wrong. And if you think your church is more in touch with the gospel just because you sing nothing but Ghost Ship or any type of hipster band, they're really great, by the way, or Ren Collective, those are great bands. But if you think you understand the gospel more just because you sing those songs, you're wrong. Because here's the deal. I never want to forsake our some tradition. Some tradition is good. Now, some tradition needs to die off, okay? That's just the truth.
Please.
Some tradition we need to keep so we know where we came from. Some hymns are great. Some hymns they just need to go.
Kick the bucket.
Absolutely.
Get
but some hymns are great. A lot of hymns are great. And we should preserve those. At the same time, we should be able to sing modern worship music, but there's a fine line between praise and worship and entertainment.
Yeah, and like I feel like there's a fine line in between because I feel like if you go too far modern, and I'm saying that very loosely, so don't try to quote me on that.
Right.
But if you go too far with the entertainment style, it becomes entertainment.
Absolutely.
Right?
You're literally drawing people with your music.
You switch from worship to entertainment. But if you go too far back and you go super, super traditional, you fall into legalism.
That's right.
So it's this. You have to find the line between legalism and entertainment.
And
you
here's
have
the
to
deal.
find the good blend.
If you go hardcore in any direction, you alienate some group.
Mm-hmm.
You either alienate, if you're doing nothing but modern worship and you're just entertaining the young people, your older people of the faith, your elders of the faith, what are they going to know? Most likely hymns, okay? And you alienate them. But if you do nothing but traditional hymns out of a hymnal, you alienate the young married couples. You alienate the people that listen to this stuff on the radio. And here's the deal. I believe we should have a blended worship, right? Because guess what, people? A healthy church, again, should have all types of ages, all types of colors, all types of backgrounds. And you can't do that with just one type of music. You can't feed the older generation with just a praise band. Now, that praise band can do hymns and help feed. That's great. But if you're doing just like elevation worship songs and stuff, and lights and smoke machines and stuff like that, that's not going to help. But if you just pick up a hymnal every Sunday and sing to a piano and that's it, guess what happens to your young people? They go elsewhere to get fed spiritually.
I'm about to throw out another concept that's pretty crazy. What if we did other styles of worship?
Whoa.
Like, what if we just didn't do the Chris Tomlin style? What if we actually broke into other styles of worship?
I like Lord, I lift your name on high.
I know you do. I know it's your favorite. But I'm
Absolutely.
just saying, well, what if we sang the same songs, but we actually changed the style of music? Or we did songs with a different style.
You mean like different genres?
Yes.
Whoa, can we do that as Christians? I thought that was just a pagan thing.
There's a fine line apparently between when you do worship songs that are holy and godly, and then are from hell.
Oh,
and
okay.
see if you cross
I'm
over,
learning today, people.
if you cross over that line, that's when you become like a Satan worshiper. So all I'm saying is, like for example, Ren Collective, they're more of a I guess like a kind of a not really a bluegrass, but
they're
I
kind
guess
of folky.
Yeah. So you can do that, and then there's Crowder, who's basically bluegrass.
Sure.
And then there's more country style, like Third Day sounds country to me, but it's not really country. But the guy's voice does.
Christian rock.
And then you have, even more harder rock bands. Like, what's to stop us from doing different styles of genre?
Basically, let me get you straight here. Your concept is let's glorify God in everything we do.
Yes. I know it's crazy.
You just blew my mind.
I know it's crazy.
You just blew. So you're saying God can use rap to get glory for himself?
Yes.
I don't know. I think we're going off the rails here, people. Can he use an electric guitar?
See, I don't know about that.
We gotta do some study.
I don't know if he can. I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna look up the scriptures where Jesus said, use electric guitar.
Here's the deal, people, and I want to wind down on this because we're gonna close our program here soon. The deal is never try to alienate one group of people in your church. And every time you try to please everybody, you'll do that. Okay? Don't try to please everybody. All right? As long as what you're doing is gospel-centered and relevant at the same time, keep doing what you're doing. Okay? let's not try to entertain people with our music and our musical abilities and our abilities to play guitar or drums. And at the same time, let's not starve people by just singing hymns to a piano. We've got to be able to be all things to all people, like Paul said, with the hopes that some will be saved, right? Mm-hmm. That means you might have to do and say some things that you don't like. That means you might have to participate in some things that aren't necessarily your cup of tea. And that goes both ways. A healthy church is made up of old, young, black, white, brown, whatever you want to put in there. Anything that God created is supposed to be made up of that. And if it's not, you may not have a healthy church. And that's a scary thing for me to say. But that's the truth. So, got any more thoughts?
No. That wraps up on that subject for me.
Man, we laid it on thick today. There's some dangerous topics there. I guess, after you talk about sex in your first podcast, you can go anywhere.
Yeah,
right?
you can just only up from there.
That's right. That's why I set it up that way. I will say this. One thing I learned about myself this week, you know what that is?
What?
I hate cakewalks, and I hate setting up cakewalks. I hate cakewalks.
I'm fine with cakewalk.
You just like the cake of cakewalks. You like the cake part, not the walking part.
The walking part I can do without. The cake part I like.
I'm not a big cakewalk fan. I'm just not. But you know what? People love it. So that's one of those things. I got to be all things to all people. I got to walk for cake, people. I got to walk for cake. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the week. Get up with us. Get in contact with us. We'd love to hear from you. But until next time, we love you guys. Take care.